Welcome to the 117th video in our series about Unix tools. In this video, I will show you more about how to build software that uses the cmake build system. This time I'll show you how to develop a script that builds the software instead of doing everything interactively. That allows you to send the script to a friend so they can build the software and not even know cmake at all. It also allows you to build the software again later on another machine or on the same machine if you had to reinstall without having to do everything interactively. So the script serves as a way to automate the build. It also is good documentation. The goal is to develop a script to do an automated build and install of qpdf for a user, not a system install. That would break the package management and require system administrator power. So we're trying to install it just for the particular user, like we did in video 116. Okay, let's do it. If you remember, we were working in this directory, and we know that has a good build, it has a good configure, everything about that is good. And we're going to test automating this, so we don't want to destroy the original good one, because if we have trouble, we have to go look at the good one. So let's move that thing to the same name with golden. Okay? And then we're ready to attempt our automation. But where do we even start? Well, toward the end of the last script, I created a file called Bob that had most of the steps we had to do to automate this. Okay, and there they are. So what can we do to automate this? We have to create a shell script. When we log in, we get a shell. And normally we work interactively. But what we want to do is work in batch mode, where we run a sequence of commands without any user interaction. It turns out that a shell script is basically a series of commands that you would type at the shell. But you can add some more logic to it if you want to. They have loops, they have if-then statements, they have variables that you can set. But basically, this is a good start here with Bob. So we don't want to break Bob. Let's copy Bob to something like install qpdf, and we'll put a .sh to let us know it's a shell script. That's the first thing we'll do. And then we're going to install qpdf, and we'll put that magic hash bang at the top, and we'll ask for bash. Okay, make sure that you use whatever the right thing is there, bin bash. So we're using bin bash, and then it's going to have the rest of the script. And because we're not really ready for everything, let's go through lines 2 through the end and prefix them with a hash to make everything as a comment. So everything is a comment. Then the next thing we need to do is we would have to remove any existing qpdf that we had and any existing qpdf ASC that we had before we did the download. And then we can do the wgets. If you don't like wget, you could use curl. The next thing we'd have to do, we don't want to try a verify that's going to fail, so we delete that. And we need to fetch the key. And again, if we're going to store the key, we need to make sure that we don't have an existing file like this already. So we delete that, and then we go fetch the key, and then we do the verify, and it should work. So this is the first phase. The first phase is go get the software and verify with the cryptographic signature that nothing is corrupted, that we got a good download. Okay, so we're leaving the rest of it out for now. So let's save that. And if you can't remember where we put it here. We should move that to our home. And then we're going to just CD, which will send us back to home. And if I could learn how to type, there we go. There is our file. You notice the permissions are wrong. We can't run it yet. We need to make sure we say the user can do everything. And really, we don't want other people running this thing. So we'll disable all permissions for other users. And then we'll do that. And you can see, okay, my permissions allow me to read it. They allow me to run it, and they allow me to update it. Everything I need. The next thing to do is test it. And you think, wait a minute, how do I know what commands it's going to run? You know, how do I know it's really working? Well, that'll turn on tracing. This will make it stop on errors. And that will make it stop if we have an undefined variable and we try to get the value. So those debugging steps at the top are a good idea. Now, let's run it. Remember, this is not going to build anything, but it should download the files, and it should verify that their download was good. Okay, it's doing the downloads, it's fetched the key, and it's done the verify. And we got the good signature. And if we look at the files we've got on the disk, we've got this file, and you know the date is old on qpdf, but the files are there. Here they are from June 7th. Okay, good. The first part of our scripting works. And you don't have to know where the files are. You don't have to know how to go fetch the key from the key server. You don't have to know how to verify anything. That's all in the script. It's all taken care of for you. We're automating those steps. That's the whole point. And this is why people love Unix, is because it was one of the first systems that had this complete automation stuff, making life easy. Okay. Now, this stuff we did interactively to verify that the upstream archive does have a top level directory in it so that we don't install into our home by accident. Since we know that, we can leave that out, and we can trust that they're going to do the right thing in the future. We need to go and we need to say, wait a minute, what do I need? I don't need to look for it, but I do need to unpack it. That'll unpack it. That'll go into the directory. I don't need to read the README again, so I can delete that. I do need to make sure they don't have a build. And this is where we need some programming power, because we need to see if they have a build or not. And if they do have a file or a directory named build, we need to stop. Okay? So how can we check for that? Oh, hey. The test command, which is also built into the shell, is what you use when you want to do some sort of condition. You want to compare things are equal or not equal, less than, greater than, subset, all those kinds of things. Use the test. And it's usually combined with either a while or an if, something like that. And you can see with the man pages that they've got lots of flags. They've got flags for strings, they've got flags for integers, and look at this, they have flags for files. Okay, they could check if a file is newer or older, or if they're on the same file system with the same inode, which means it's a hard link. Okay, we've got exists, and that's the one we need. If the name exists, because we don't care if it's a file or a directory. If there's anything called build, it's going to break our script. So -e is the one we want. So how do we use that? And you're looking at your code and you're kind of confused. We don't know what we're doing. Well, we need to go into qpdf 1191, and it says there isn't one. And it's, wait a minute, I downloaded everything. It's supposed to unpack it. Let's go check. Yes, it's supposed to unpack it and go into that directory. And somehow things didn't happen. And you notice I'm missing a remove too. -fr force recursive. So that means that if there are subdirectories or anything in there, get rid of all of it. So let's run this again after I've added that line. It's doing the downloads. It says it did the unpack, and we're in there. If we check, we're not in there. Why aren't we in there? Because it started a new shell to run this. Okay, I'm in here, I'm unpacked. How would I see if there's a build? Well, you could cheat and do that. And you could see that there's something called build scripts, but there's nothing called build. But we want to do this without having to look at the screen. So what we can do is we can say, if build exists, then and you see it says okay. Can we flip the condition? Can we say if there is no build, we're okay? Yes, we can. But you can see we have an if with some test inside the square brackets without the word test. And then you have to have a line with then by itself. Then you can have one or more lines of stuff. Then you have an else by itself. One or more lines of stuff, and then a fee, which will, the opposite of if, which will close your if statement. Wonderful. How do we use this in the script? Well, we're in the wrong directory for that. So if we go back in and install qpdf, and we come down here, what we can say is, if build directory or file exists, then we'll put out a message and we'll exit with the error code of 1. Anything but 0 is some kind of error. And so at the end of the script, we need to make sure if everything's okay, we exit with a 0. Okay. I'm feeling pretty good. If this works, that means we have automated everything up to the point where you actually use cmake. But we've done the unpack, we've verified there's no build, all that stuff. And of course, when you look at this, you're going to say that 11.9.1 is everywhere. And when they come out with 11.9.2, my script's going to break. You're right. So let's use a variable. We can say verno equals 11.9.1, like that. And really, we probably want to export it. And then from here to the end, we're going to substitute. Anytime you had 11.9.1, we're going to say $verno. To the dollar and the curly braces say, give me the value of the variable inside, which is verno. And when we do that, you can see, all I have to do when I change the qpdf version is change this one line up here about verno, and everything else should still work. That's nice. But we got to test it. So here I am, and I'm going to try it again. Install qpdf.sh, and this is the first time we've used a variable for the qpdf version number. We need to take a good look at the output and make sure that's what happened. And you can see it's downloading the correct one. It's unpacked the correct one. It looked for a build. We got to exit 0. Exit 0 means success. So everything worked. We're fully automated up to the point where we call cmake. We're making good progress. The next thing we need to do is take a look at, we don't need that comment anymore. We could put an else and say everything is okay, but that's kind of silly. I mean, if we're Unix, right? If it's okay, don't say anything. Here's the cmake. And the cmake started up an interactive full character screen curses interface. Looks like some sort of old bank terminal. And that's not what we want. We want to do it with some kind of batch mode. So how do we do that? It turns out you can do cmake instead of cmake. And we still need to say the source is this directory, the build is the build directory, and we need to tell it what is going to be our secondary build system. And that's going to be Ninja. Remember, cmake is a top level build, and all it outputs is instructions for the low level build, and we want instructions for Ninja. So we do that. It looks pretty good. But if you look at this, you're going to say, this is going to be many lines long. Maybe I'll use the line continuation character. There can't be any spaces after that, or it's going to break. But you should have spaces over here. Okay. What options do we need to set? How do we know what options to set? We're going to have to look at that cmake, and to do that, I need 2 terminals at the same time. Uh-oh. Now you know why I did this full screen video, even though we were using only 1 terminal. I need to connect twice. So I can cut and paste between these windows. So now we go into the golden, and we do the cmake minus s dot minus b build minus g ninja, and it says, hey, this stuff, something's wrong, I'm not happy. And that's because cmake is really stupid, and they burn everything about your path into the build. And if you rename the directory or you move the directory, everything breaks. You might wonder why I'm not a cmake fan. Well, that's one of the reasons. They hard code the bleep out of everything. So, let's see. Where are we? We need to delete this one. This is the one we created with the automatic script. Nuke that. Rename this one back to the original name. Go in there. Look, it works. But if you rename it or you move it, it doesn't work. Very frustrating. But okay, enough complaining. What did we have to set? We had to set the cmake build type to release. I remember that. So grab that and come over here and you say insert that. And of course we have to reformat a little bit. Like that. Minus D, variable name equal value. And then at the end of the line, you need a space and that backslash and no spaces after the backslash. But that will set that variable to the value we want. And that was the first variable we set. We also set this one, the cmake install prefix. Although you can see here, somehow it got messed up. We'll fix it. Minus D, and then insert that. And we don't want user local, we want home local. Okay, there's the cmake install prefix. And then we come back over here and say, well, what else did we change? You know, is there anything else that we changed? We knew we didn't want to build the documentation because that's going to pull in a lot of dependencies. So let's get that. We don't really want the examples, although they were on here. We don't want them. So let's turn those off. Those are off. So we won't get documentation. We won't get examples. And that's all we see here. Because, remember, you have to hit the T to get the advanced mode. And then the advanced mode showed us a whole lot more. We set the CXX compiler to G++ to make sure we don't get Clang or something else. And we wanted, although this one doesn't show it, we wanted O2 for this. So we'll come over here and we'll set that. Now you see there's a space in this. If there's a space, we're going to have to put some quotes around it. If there's no space, you don't need them. But if there's a space in there, we need to send this as one string, and that means the shell syntax requires we use some quote symbols. Unfortunately, there's no quote in the middle, so that's going to work. Okay, same thing with the C compiler. So copy that. Now I'm going to use the down arrow key, and we need to change this one to use O2. We don't really like O3. O3 is not completely reliable because the GCC people care more about speed and safety when you get to the O3 level. O2 is usually safe. But O3, they cheat on the math, and there's rounding errors, and you're going to get the wrong answer. We don't need the wrong answer. Thank you very much. Okay. We want to see the compile command, so we'd like that to be on. Oh, okay. A little editing anxiety there. This lets you know that we're using the Ninja backend like we wanted. And we specified that here with -G Ninja. Notice it's not a -D. You need to use the -G Ninja because it does more than set this variable. It does some other stuff too in the background. Okay, we look at this. We might want to try to turn on the verbose make file, even though we're not going to have a make file. We can take that out if it turns out to be silly. But verbose means tell me more. I want to see the compile command lines when I'm building this, so that if there is a problem, I can type in that compile command line and try it myself after I fix whatever bug is in the C code. Okay, we're looking. Install examples. No, we don't want that. So we should turn that off. And we'll put it up here with the other one about examples. And wait a minute, it's a duplicate. Okay, remove it. This happens because that moved when we did the toggle advanced mode. Okay, we're still looking. Qtest color, well, we're not going to run the test, so it doesn't really matter. Implicit crypto, W error. Okay, I don't see anything else that looks like we really care. Take a good look, stare hard. And of course, we'll leave this terminal open in case something doesn't work. But this sequence should do the same thing our cmake did, but it should do it all in a script. Okay? And I've left this in here to show what we used to do, and I put a hash. The hash is the comment. And the way the comments work, it says everything after the hash is a comment. Okay, so we're going to run this script now, and it should work. But before we run it, we have to think, oh no, it's going to wipe out our golden stuff, right? So get out of here, back up, move this back to golden. This is one of the reasons why working with cmake is so painful, is because they burn the paths in. They hard code them. But okay, now we're safe and we're ready. So let's try it. This should stop after it configures the cmake, before it does the build. Okay, we're fetching. We verified. Okay, let's see what it says. Option summary, see above for crypto summary. Build files have been written. The exit code is still 0. We didn't have any error. It says it's going to build the static libraries. It's not going to build the manual. Compiler warnings, our errors is off. Good, we hate that. Test coverage is off. We're on a Linux system, and then they tell us the options. And these options we didn't directly set. These options were chosen for us. Seems pretty good. So the next thing to do is go back into our script and say, okay, I'm happy with that. Let's uncomment the build and the build verification stuff. Okay, so that's going to actually, this command here will run the build. This command, remember, showed us all the anything named qpdf that was in the build. We determined this one should be a file, and LDD tree should show us the shared libraries which it uses, and this should give out the version number, and the version number should be correct. So that's before we try to install. Let's run it. Notice we get to see the compile command lines this time. This is one of the reasons why using the command line cmake sometimes is nicer than the cmake, because the cmake, especially if you have to go in there 2 or 3 times, sometimes it'll reset stuff and you don't notice. When it's in a script, it's obvious, you see it right there. Okay, it finished without an error. It found that it was an ELF executable. The LDD tree shows there are no missing shared libraries. And when we ran the version, we got the version we expected. We're almost done. We automatically download it, configure it, and build it now. So what's left? Well, the version. Man, how could we make sure the version is equal to that version, which is what we want? How could we do that? We need to capture that output somehow. And it turns out if you do that, it says get the stuff in parentheses, run it, and then use the value from the standard out or standard error as your value. So we'll put that to greater than &1 to make sure that we get all the standard out and all the standard error, and we need to put that into somewhere. So we'll put that in a variable run var. And now we should be able to compare run var with our actual value var no. And you say, well, run var no, that's no good. Var no real. Well, how do you know it's real and not real? Finding a name for this, okay, how about that? Verno R. So Verno when we run. And now we can do an if, and we have to use a double bracket because we're going to do a string and not a file or anything like that. And so we have to, there might be spaces, right? So we're going to say if Verno is the same as Verno R, everything's good. So if that's not true, everything's bad. And when things are bad, we'll output a message, wrong Verno R got Verno R expected Verno. So there's a nice message. We'll exit with a 1 and phi. And if we don't get any message, everything's good. Run it. I know it looks painful because we're having to download everything a million times. The idea is once you develop this script, you'd copy this script to a new name, and you'd have a good jump start for any other software. And you just change the qpdf to whatever the other software is, because most cmake builds look the same. They might have a few more options you set, but they mostly look the same. Oh no. Oh no. What happened? Verno R is qpdf version. Look at this. It's 2 lines. So Verno R doesn't equal this because Verno R gave me 2 lines of crap. And we don't need 2 lines. So we have to do some processing on Verno R. The first thing we need to do is find out what this thing really is going to output. So qpdf version shows this. Let's put it into 2 different files. Let's put this into 1 and put standard error into 2. Hey. Nothing's in standard error. So everything's in the standard out. That'll allow us to simplify things. Now, let's think about what we could do to just get the number. Well, let's do a head minus n1. That's an improvement. You notice we didn't get the copyright stuff. Now, what can we do now? Think hard. Cut on the spaces. Field 3. Okay. So this is what it's going to take. Okay, we're going to have to add this stuff. So down here, we didn't need that because it turns out everything goes to standard out. But we do need that. And that should give us a Verno that actually works. But again, you got to test. This is one of the reasons why I chose a small project for this, because the downloads are quick. And as I have said, I need to reiterate, once you figure out how to do this once, you can start with the old script and just make a few changes for some new software. But the first time you do this, it's a little bit painful. And that's why we have these videos, is to help you get through that process. Okay, look. No error. It said this thing and that thing, they're fine. I got to exit 0, so the version's good. And we verified the version. We did that by hand before, but now we do it in the script automatically. We're almost done. The next step is to do the actual install. And then when you get to the LD library path, this is tricky, because after you set one, then somebody else is going to set a different one, and you really need to add to the old one sometimes, if there is anything, and you need to make a new one if there isn't one. So how do we know if this thing is empty or not? Maybe I can go to the other window and do this. So what I can do is I can say man test, and if you look around, here's what we're looking for. The length of the string is 0. So we need to do one thing when the length of the string is 0, and we do something else when it's not 0. and I'm missing the curly braces, which I should have. So we need to say something like this. You need to put quotes, because if there's spaces in the middle, that'll break things. If there is no LD library path, then we need to set it. Okay, and because some people are really psychotic and have a space in their directory tree, you better put quotes to be safe. Okay, we'll put a comment in here because this is a little tricky. So how do you append? Append, which means puts it on the end. Well, you do an LD library path and a colon. Okay, we know colon is the path separator, so we say take the old value and then put a colon and the new value. So that's going to do it. At that point, we should be able to do this without all this extra stuff in front. That should work. We'll leave this commented out for the time being, but that should work. We're almost there. Some people worry that printing out all this stuff is going to slow things down. You know, it's not really going to slow down much. Maybe, 1 or 2%. Not much. The slow part, of course, is the C++ compilation. C++, like Java, is slow. Okay, we've got a problem. Warning, 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 problem. Warning, qpdf is a directory. Okay, so something bad happened. We did hash -r, we did a which cmake, and it found the wrong one. Why is that? If you remember when we did the interactive video, we did this, and I sort of had to bump my head and say, why am I looking for cmake? I'm doing qpdf. And somehow, when we made Bob, somehow we made the mistake again. We want which qpdf, okay? Whoops. That's the first problem. Then we asked for this, and you notice that because we already had one, he said it twice. And we appended it. It won't hurt anything. But when we did the qpdf version, it did give the right number. But then when we did the LDD tree of qpdf, everything broke, because LDD tree needs a real path. It's not going to go look for it. All right. Don't panic. Come on. Panic is no good. You can see we got it right the second time, but we left junk in the script. So there, it's fixed. So we fixed the two things that seem to error out on the script. We still have one more problem where it just keeps making LD library path longer, even if this is already part of the LD library path. I hope you appreciate how much work people who make the packages for your distro have to do. They have to do all this. for you. And they don't do it for one package, they do it for thousands of packages. So next time you get a bad package and you think, those people are lazy, they're not even trying, that's usually not true. Most of the time, it's just they're doing 50 packages a day, each one's a little different, and somewhere they made a typo. And they didn't do it to be mean. And after you see how much work this is, you might think, wow, I'm amazed they get it right so often. So we've reached the end of the script. There are no problems. Everything looks good. It's all verified like we verified by hand when we did it interactively, but now it's all a script. The only real bug left is it's setting this twice, and it has not updated the dot profile automatically. So how can we make sure, in this case, there's no problem. If it's empty, we can't get a duplicate. So this case is too dumb. This case says, if I have a LD library path, add this. And what we need to say is, if we have an LD library path and that's not in the LD library path, then add it to the LD library path. And that's going to take some tricky shell logic. So let me get out of here and let's talk about echo. I can't spell today. Echo LD library path. You can see that if you're really dumb and you can't type, it doesn't tell you much. Hi. My function keys seem to be on the blink. Okay, so there's only one thing in there. How are we going to learn how to do this? Well, just make some other variable. Silly. And we know they're separated by colons, so there it is. Your question should be, how do I get A, B, C, and D from that? Is there some way to get the shell to give me that stuff? And the tool that we have learned that's good for that is cut. And oh no, what's going on, right? No such file or directory. It didn't work. How do we know how many are in there? How many colons are in there? Because we have to stop. Clearly we can get any one we want using this pattern and just change this 2 at the end to whichever one we want. And you think, oh, that's only working because they're single letters. No. Come on. Alice is a good girl. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get good. Okay, so it's going to work whether these are a single letter or a whole word. It's going to work, and we can get any one of them. But what we want to know is how many of these colons are in there. And if you remember, grep had a C option. So maybe we'll do a grep. We'll echo this thing. And it says 1. And I'm looking 1, 2, 3. There's 4 of them in there. but it says 1. Remember, grep is line-based. Line-based. It's not going to tell you how many things are on one line. And you're, at this point, you're throwing your hands up in the air and you're saying, man, this is impossible. How in the world am I ever going to get this to work? Think hard. Think hard. Let's take this one and say, I forgot my delimiter. Okay, that gives me that. And that gives me the rest. Aha! And then I could take the rest and get the first one. And then I could get the rest. And you see the pattern now. And this is how you do it. You peel one off at a time in some kind of loop. And then we can use that -z test that you remember to make sure the string is not empty. So we need a while loop, some kind of while loop. And while the string is not empty, we'll take the first one out and keep going. So, rather than modify our main script, let's make a simple standalone script that starts with this, and we want it to print Alice, and then another line is, and another line A, and another line good, another line girl, and then stop. Okay, so what would we call that? Of course, we'd call that Wonderland. Use the same shell we're using before. There is our variable. So we'll call that, I don't know, LD library path, right? That's what we're trying to simulate. And then we need to say while not -z LD library path do something like that. But does shell have a while loop, and does it use do and done, or does it use ELIHW? What does it do? Well, do an info bash, and you'll find out we don't have info pages. So man bash, okay, look for while. Okay, and that really didn't do it. Okay, while something or other, a new line, do something or other, done. So I got it right. What do we need to do? We need to say first is equal to echo of that thing. Like that. Now, again, if there's spaces, we might have to do that. And then we need to see LD library path is that thing. And we chopped off the first one. And after we've done that, we probably need to echo first. Okay. If everything works, this should print Alice, and a new line is, and a new line A, a new line good, new line girl, and then it should stop. Oh no, oh no. Alice is a good girl, 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 girl. It never stopped. It never stopped. You see that? It was doing the right thing, and then it got stuck. So, wow, how do we solve this problem? We're so close. But We just don't have a solution. And we look at this code again and we say, okay, Remember when I put some debug stuff in there? Let's put the debug stuff in there and run it again. And we'll give it a, we'll just run it through less and then we can kill it. No, we can't kill it. It keeps going. So let's do head minus n 50. And you see it's all mixed together. Man, my terminal keys are giving me a hard way to go. Okay. Now we see the debug. First was Alice. LD library was is a good girl. Then first is LD library path went from is a good girl to just a good girl. And then first is A and we got good girl. And then first is good. And LD library path is girl. And then first is girl. And LD library path is still girl. It's still girl. And you can see what happened when we asked for F2 to the end. It gave us girl. Even though there is nothing there. And so we need to find out what goes on when you do this. Does it set an error code? Is there something we could check for? How can we deal with that? Because clearly this should have given us a blank, and instead we got girl. We expected it to be blank because it should look for that, and when it doesn't find one, it should know that there's no field 2, but it didn't. With the tracing, we have found the bug, and the bug seems to be our understanding of the cut routine. So let's echo girl, cut minus D bam, minus F2 wham. Wow, the return code is 0, and we got girl back. So cut just doesn't do what we think it should do. Okay, there's the delimiter. So let's look for anything about count. No, that's all we got. Okay, we're going to have to do a more careful read. Also print any line that contains... Oh, I hate you. Also print any line that contains no delimiter character unless the -s option is supplied. -s. Do not print lines not containing delimiters. Sounds good to me. Let's go in there. Okay, that's all we changed. It stops. Okay, it stops on girl, but we've got so much debug crud, we can't actually see what's going on. So let's turn off the debug stuff. Yes, Alice is a good girl. Now, we've got the core logic in shell script of what we need, and we debugged it using a separate script so we didn't have to download 100 times each time. What do we need to do with this list? We need to compare and see if something is in the list or not in the list. So let's go back into Wonderland and say want equals, I don't know, good. That's the one we're looking for, is good. And if it's in there, you know, we'll say found equals 0. We didn't find it yet. So we get first and we say if first equals want, then found equal 1, fee. And then at the end, echo found equal found. Okay, this should output 1 because good is in the list. Yes, it did. Now come in here and look for something that's not in there. Bad. And we should see a 0. Found a 0. So we can do it. We can do the logic. And you can think of this as something like home dot local lib. Okay. So at the end, we can do better than this. We can say if found equals 1, okay. It says we need to add it because it's not in the LD library path. And if we change this to something like the very last one, so it has to search the whole list. Girl is already in the LD library path. And you say, well, you know, test the first one. Works. Test one in the middle. Okay, we test the first one, one in the middle, the last one, and one that wasn't there. It's all working. So this is the logic we need. But man, it's not a function. How do we call this thing? We want a function somehow. I'll leave that for another video. You can make functions in Shell, but this is good enough because we only have to do it once. We only have to do it once. And if you only have to do it once, we can do it inline. You know, if we were doing it 50 times, yeah, we'd have to make a function or a procedure, some kind of subroutine. But if we're only going to do it once, we can just leave it inline. Now, can you even remember where we started? Install qpdf.sh. Here we are. And this is down here in this logic. Okay? We're trying to decide, do we need to add it or not? Right here on this line. Wow. Look at all that pain. If required. I can't spell necessary today. If required. So, LD library path might already, we know it's already set because we didn't get a -z. So comment that out. And now we need to come down here and say, where is the stuff? Dag. Oh, I'm having a little trouble with my terminal emulator. It won't work exactly the way I want to. I'm not going to get mad. Being angry does not help. Let's close this second window. We don't need it. We're going to close this window, and we're going to say, okay. Maybe I was inside of something. When you nest too deep, things break. So, sorry about that. Here we are. Everything's working. So there's my found. And what's my want? Okay. Want is this thing we were going to add. And then we come up here and we get the loop. And our loop needs some indenting to look good. Okay. Now, after we find it, do we really need to keep looking? No, we don't really need to keep looking. Is there a break available in the shell to break out of this loop? Break command is executed. Break. Exit from within a for while until a while loop. That's us. If you specify a number, it can break multiple levels. And if you don't do a number, then it's just going to break out of one level. All right, I'm loving this more and more. That's going to make things run a little quicker. So after we do the find it and we say yes, I found it, I can break. I don't need to keep looking. Wonderful. Now, if found is 1, it's already in the path. We need the opposite logic. If found is 0, then we need to add it to the library path. Oh, what an adventure. And we already have that code here. Let's go through it because this is not complex shell scripting, but it is the first time we've done any. So, set the variable found to 0. The thing we want to see inside the LD library path is here. Now, while the library path is not empty, and we know it's not empty the first time through the loop because we already checked up here if it was empty. And if it was empty, we did this. So we know it's not empty the first time. And then we come in here and we get the first thing and we compare it to the thing we want. And if it's the same, we found it and we break out a loop. You know, we set the found variable to 1 and we break out. Otherwise, we chop that first one off of LD library path and we loop around again. And we've got this echo. We don't need to echo. Nobody needs to see that. And we keep looking. I want to keep through this loop. At the end of the loop, one of two things will be true. Either we found it, or we never found it and found a 0. Well, if found is 0, that means it's not in the library, LD library path. So we had to append it. And of course the else is it's already there. If found is 1, it's already there. We don't have to do anything. Okay. Wow. Man. Is that going to work? You know, we could delete that, but the truth is we want the script to take care of it. Our golden is safe. It's up here. So let's try this. Install qpdf-sh and see if this complicated Wonderland logic for setting the LD library path works or not. I realize this is a long video, but you have to keep in mind that normally this would be spread over an entire 3-hour lecture slot. And I was told to get this in 10 minutes. 10 minutes is not going to happen. You can't learn shell scripting in 10 minutes. Okay? You can't learn cmake in 10 minutes. You can't learn much of anything in 10 minutes. So what happened? We got the found equal 1. It did not set the LD library path. Okay? It didn't need to. It knew it was already there. Well, of course, we need to test the other case where it's not there. We want to make sure this script works for everybody. So go into your home.profile. Come down here. These are the lines that we would add to the home profile. Take them out. Unset LD library path, export LD library path, and then, you know, restart your shell. It's not set. Okay, it's not set. And when we do qpdf version, we're going to get that system one because of the DLL. Right? So things are busted right now. So we're going to try the install again. And when we finish, we should see some change right here. And of course, we need to do this stuff if that was true. So we need to move this. Now you notice these are in column 1 and it looks ugly, but they're not going to work with all those spaces in front. And when it looks for the EOF, it has to be here. So this is what it takes. These lines cannot be indented, but everything else is. So what's going to happen? We're going to set it for the environment right now for this session, so it should work in this shell. But of course, that's not going to get reflected in when this shell exits. That's gone. And so for the future, we're going to append to the home profile to put it in there. We're going to assume it's not in there. You know, if it wasn't here, it shouldn't be here. But we're never going to try to append to the home profile if found is 1. We're not going to do it. We're only going to do it if found is 0. What about up here? Oh, it's not set. We got to do it again up there. Man, what a lot of work. Now, if you're a serious comp sci dude, you're going to say, wait a minute. You did this here. You did this here. You got code duplication. You're an evil person. Come on. Come on. It's a shell script. Don't get too pedantic. Anytime we had to modify the library path, this one does the set. This one down here, this one's busted. This one's busted. We need to do like this. We need that, not that. Okay, and then that's going to be okay, which is going to extend it. And so we couldn't just duplicate the code. It actually is different. And this one, you can see I've hard-coded Home John, which is just dumb. Okay, and there might be a space in there. You have to be paranoid because these Windows people, they're psychotic. They put spaces in their file names. So, okay, we should be ready for anything in theory. We've made the changes. Now it's time to give it a shot and see if it works or if it explodes. We've still got the debug trace code in there so we can see what happens if something bad does happen. And you'll notice that I've done this incrementally. Make a change and test. Make a change and test. Make a change and test. This is the way real programmers work. Nobody does 50 changes and then runs the test because you don't know which one of the 50 changes broke everything. You need to change one thing and then test. And then change one more thing and test. Okay, we've hit a bug. Okay, LD library path is an unbound variable. He didn't like it on line 45. So we blew up. All that talking about paranoia, and we still blew up. Don't quit. We're on line 45 and you see that. This is a common mistake. If you're going to test, you have to put that on there which says, if there's nothing there, give me a blank. This is needed on almost any time you do a -z test. Okay, did we have any other -z test? We've got one right here. Better put that in there. Anytime you're doing one of those things that might be empty, okay, then you need to, can't be empty. That's against the rules. And first, really you shouldn't have any empty things on your LD library path. If you do, go get a Unix guru to help you because things are badly broken at that point. And you need somebody to get rid of that. Okay, we're trying again. We're not quitters. We're not perfect. We're regular people. Regular people can get it working if they don't give up. But regular people never get it in one try. Even Turing Award winners, they have to debug their code. If you find somebody who can do it in one try, they've either memorized it or it was really simple. Okay, no error. It said that we had to add it and we didn't have to extend it because it wasn't there. It should be in the .pro file. Unfortunately, I don't see it in the profile, which is startlingly bad. It said we did the cat to homejohn.profile. It says we did it on the tracing. But I sure don't see it on the file. It's not there. It went somewhere, but it's not there. and you're so mad because the script didn't give an error. We worked so hard on that logic, it just didn't work. And the cat didn't give us enough debugging. We used a here document, but somehow it just didn't do it. Don't call mama, unless mama's a programmer. You have to look at this and you say, now wait a minute. I did that. What is this VI here? That's some kind of bug. What is this VI here? That's some kind of bug. How did we get that bug? Lord only knows. Okay? But it was definitely a bug. And you can do whatever, I think they call it a centering exercise, where you breathe out and you try to be calm and you try to think about nice things. And you think, I'm not sure this shell scripting is a nice thing. It is, but I'm trying to show you step by step how to develop it instead of just giving you the final answer. Learning anything completely new is usually difficult and painful. This is no exception. Okay. Did it work? Did it work? Or did it not work? It's there! And this is the one that does not extend because it wasn't in there. Everything's in there. Okay. So we need to log in. We need to log out and log in to test that. Boom, I'm out. I'm going back in. Did I get any errors down here? No, it looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Everything works, and we did it with an automated script. It only took an hour and, hour and 22 minutes, according to the timer on my left. So we don't need the debugging anymore. Otherwise, the script is golden. It's ready to go. And all you'd need to change when they had an upgrade upstream, if they still build the same way, is this. I'm going to leave this hint in here because when you get new software, you're going to have to find out, do they have any special options? And the only easy way to do that is to do this interactive stuff. But then, after you've got the new -D switches figured out, you can come over here. And you can see we still have a bug. I said I was going to make this 02. I missed one. Okay, fixed that up. We're looking around. We've got comments for this tricky stuff. Okay. We'll do it one more time to make sure that the tracing is turned off, and we'll take a closer look at the -02 versus -03 and make sure we didn't do any accidental 03s the best we can. It scrolls so fast we might miss one, but I'm getting some kind of hang on my system. This is a weakness when you try to go get the GPG keys. If they think you're fetching too many keys too fast, they'll rate limit you. But we finally got through it. Okay, now let's take a look at this. Are we getting O2? Are we getting O3? I'm getting an O2. Okay, O2 is what we wanted. We didn't want O3. Still getting O2. So I think we're okay. This one still O2, still O2. Okay, I think we solved that O3 problem for the C++ code. I'm looking to see if we have any C code. I'm not seeing any. This is some giant link. Another one. Another link. This is more G++, O2. Okay, we're all done. Still works. Success. So an hour and 26 minutes, including our removing the tracing code. And now, let's take a look. Do some silly test. grep for John in the install qpdf.sh. It should not be there. Now you can see we've got one. We've still got some hard-coded stuff in there. And that would break when you ran it on your friend's system. Okay, so we got rid of the John, and it should just be home. No more Johns. 11, 9, 1. That's the only one in the file. Okay, so what about the key? Well, that ought to be a variable. Because each software package is going to have a different key. So let's look for C2, C9. Okay, that's the only place that is. So we've put that into a variable. These URLs, they're weird enough. Somebody would have to go in there and edit those anyway. But they're right, all that stuff's right up here near at the top. Easy to fix. The rest of the script should not need any sort of tweaking. Don't be lazy. I know you want to be lazy. Don't do it. Every time you change anything, you got to test it. And I know you're going to think, man, that's a lot of testing. Yes, it is. Good software engineering is going to require lots of testing. And you notice we didn't write any new software except for the shell script. You know, and yet we have over an hour of I'd say an hour of testing involved. And every time we've done something, we've made it a little bit better, a little bit better, a little more robust. And our goal, if you remember our goal was to have a scriptable install for a local user that'll work when you email it to your friend. So, did we succeed? I think we did. How could you test? Well, if you had another Ubuntu machine, you could put this file on that machine, make sure you're a normal user, not root, and run it. And it should just work if that machine has networking and it has the necessary commands installed. And we didn't use anything really esoteric. We used cmake, LDD-tree, gzip, wget, gpg. Those should all be on every machine. What might cause a little trouble is some machines won't have the header files installed, but your system administrator can help you with that. Okay, now it's time to thank the deities because we're done with this video after an hour and a half. I hope that you're not upset and that you actually learned something from it. Shell scripting is super powerful, and in order to be a good system administrator, you have to know shell scripting, and you could see why it's good. Yes, it took us an hour to make this shell script because we didn't start from any existing shell script. We had to write it totally from scratch. But now I can install this software on 100 machines without even thinking. All I do is copy this file on there and run it, and it's going to work. So that's the value of it. It's repeatable. If my machine had a bad hard disk and it died, as long as I have a copy of this shell script somewhere, when I install the new machine, I can run this shell script and I've got my qpdf back just like it used to be. That's as good a job of selling the shell script concept as I can do. I appreciate your patience. Thank you for listening.